Tonight we're going somewhere truly strange, somewhere in my own backyard that has earned a dark reputation across the globe. We're going to the Bridgewater Triangle. This 200 square mile expanse of southeastern Massachusetts isn't just known for its cranberry bogs and colonial history. It's one of the most concentrated hotspots of paranormal, cryptid, and UFO activity in the entire world. It's been called Massachusetts' own Bermuda Triangle, a place where the veil between our world and something much older, much stranger, is perpetually thin. For over 3 centuries, the area has served as an epicenter for everything we cover on this channel: Bigfoot sightings, winged humanoids, unexplained lights, ancient curses, and malevolent entities like the Pukwudgie that we covered before. We're going to unmask the secrets of this supposedly cursed land, delve into the history that created its terrifying legends, and examine the recent incidents that prove this strange activity is far from over. Only on this episode of The Weekly Strange. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Weekly Strange. I'm your host, John F. Mers, author, actor, adventurer. First, let's define the borders. The term Bridgewater Triangle was popularized by cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman in the 1970s. It describes a sort of rough triangle connecting the towns of Rehoboth to the southwest, Abington to the north, and Freetown to the southeast. At the geographical and spiritual heart of this triangle lie 2 massive, foreboding wilderness areas, the Hockomock Swamp and the Freetown-Fall River State Forest. The name Hockomock is rooted in the language of the Wampanoag people and roughly translates to place where spirits dwell, a warning from the indigenous people centuries before Europeans had ever heard of a cryptid. This immense wetland, covering over 16,000 acres, is dense, difficult to navigate, and has been ground zero for this strangest phenomena in generations. The history of this land is deeply fractured, and many believe this fracturing is the very source of its paranormal power. This area was a historic stronghold of the Wampanoag and Hockomock tribes. The colonization and subsequent conflicts, particularly King Philip's War in the 1670s, resulted in bloody battles, massacres, and the forced displacement of the native population. Many local historians and paranormal researchers theorize that the trauma and bloodshed inflicted upon this sacred land created a residual energy, a vortex or focal point for strangeness that continues to draw energy and entities to this day. The Bridgewater Triangle is famous for 2 cryptids that couldn't be more different: the terrifyingly small Pukwudgie that we talked about in a previous episode, and the overwhelmingly large Sasquatch. Now, as I just mentioned, we've talked about the Pukwudgie before on this channel, but if you happen to miss that episode, I'll recap some of the highlights. The Pukwudgie is a key figure in the Wampanoag lore of the Hockomock Swamp. It is not a friendly gnome or fairy. The name translates to person of the wilderness or little wild man, and their role is strictly malevolent. Descriptions are consistent. They are small, only 2 to 3 feet tall, possess human-like features with exaggerated ears and noses, and have smooth ash-gray skin that allows them to blend in perfectly with the rocky, damp landscape. Their danger, however, lies in their powers. According to lore, Pukwudgies are intensely vengeful. They possess powers of shapeshifting, illusion, and invisibility. They are rumored to lure people off familiar paths, causing disorientation and confusion until their victims are lost in the deep swamp. They can create fire, and most horrifically are blamed for luring people to dangerous cliffs or bogs and pushing them to their doom. Reports of Pukwudgie activity are often anecdotal, but terrifyingly consistent. Hikers and researchers venturing near the swamp edge have recently reported unexplained pushes or sudden overwhelming feelings of paranoia and hostile observation, often accompanied by high-pitched, unnerving whistles coming from the dense undergrowth. These are not full sightings, but sensory and psychological instances aligning perfectly with the centuries-old lore. Now, in stark contrast to the small magical Pukwudgie, the triangle is also a consistent hotspot for Bigfoot sightings. These creatures are typically described as towering, 7 to 8 feet tall ape-like hominids covered in dark hair. One of the most significant sightings occurred near the Assonet Ledge in the Freetown State Forest in the 1970s, when multiple witnesses reported seeing a large bipedal creature. Recent reports, and these surface annually, involve finding unusually large, non-human footprints deep within the Freetown forest, often near remote hunting trails. Hikers report the smell of a powerful, repulsive musk, aggressive wood knocking, and seeing large figures briefly move at the periphery of their vision. Well, if the land belongs to the cryptids, the sky above the Bridgewater Triangle belongs to unidentified anomalous phenomenon, or UAPs. The Bridgewater Triangle has a documented history of UAP sightings dating back to the colonial era, but activity surged dramatically in the 1960s and 70s, coinciding with the rise of modern UFO research. The sheer volume and diversity of these sightings are what make this area unique. Multiple witnesses reported seeing a massive dome-shaped object hovering silently over a lake in Abington. The lights were described as intense and colorful, and the object performed maneuvers that defied all known aviation capabilities. The area near Rehoboth and Taunton has a consistent history of reports involving slow-moving, multicolored orbs of light, often red, orange, or white, that float low above the swamp and fields, sometimes illuminating the ground below. These lights are often observed at night and are frequently seen by multiple witnesses simultaneously. More recently, reports have focused on large, silent black triangle-shaped craft that move slowly over the wooded areas, often reported by residents living near the edges of the Freetown State Forest. These are consistent with the global UAP reports, but unnervingly common in this zone. Researchers often cite the Bridgewater Triangle as having one of the highest rates of documented UFO sightings per capita in the United States, suggesting that whatever is happening in the air is intrinsically linked to the strange energies emanating from the land below. Beyond cryptids and UAPs, the Bridgewater Triangle is also a vortex for general high strangeness, drawing in folklore, ghost sightings, and more disturbing activities. The Freetown-Fall River State Forest has a reputation so dark it borders on the mythological. It is notorious for its association with murders, suicides, and allegations of cult activity and satanic rituals. Locals believe that certain remote clearings and rock formations deep within the forest were used for dark ceremonies in the 1970s and 80s, leaving behind a persistent malevolent presence. Hikers have reported finding strange altars, burnt candles, and animal remains arranged in unusual patterns. The forest is now policed heavily due to these issues, but the chilling stories persist. And then there are even more paranormal anomalies like the following. The Bridgewater Triangle has a long history of sightings of immense avian cryptids, often called thunderbirds. These are described as birds with wingspans of 8 to 12 feet, sometimes mistaken for a very large bird of prey, but whose size and power suggests something much more mythological. An unsettling phenomenon reported since the 1970s involves sightings of unmarked, silent black helicopters flying low over the Hockomock Swamp, seemingly monitoring the UAP activity. Witnesses believe these are covert government operations attempting to track or recover evidence related to the UAPs or cryptids. There have been historical and recent reports of animal mutilations, cattle, dogs, and horses found dead under unnatural circumstances, often with precise surgical cuts and organs removed, eerily similar to reports linked to cattle mutilations across the American West. The reason the Bridgewater Triangle remains compelling is because the incidents are still happening. It is not just historical folklore, it is a current phenomenon. One notable recent report comes from late 2024 involving a local man near the edge of the Hockomock who reported hearing guttural, aggressive vocalizations followed by the sound of heavy brush being violently broken, far larger than anything a deer or bear could make, moving rapidly away from him after he shone a flashlight into the woods. The description mirrored classic Bigfoot encounters. Another incident widely circulated in local forums in early 2025 involved a group of hikers near the Rehoboth side who captured unexplained pulsing red lights on video hovering over the tree line for several minutes before they silently ascended vertically at impossible speed, directly linking the triangle to ongoing UAP activity. The enduring mystery of the Bridgewater Triangle is complex. It's a place where the deep trauma of colonial history, the powerful native legends, and unique geological conditions like high magnetic anomalies often reported in the swamp area seem to converge. Whether you believe these are manifestations of ancient, vengeful spirits like the Pukwudgie, extraterrestrial craft exploring a rich energy source, or simply misidentified animals in meteorological phenomena, the truth remains that for centuries, this patch of Massachusetts soil has refused to be ordinary. It stands as a reminder that right outside my front door, and yours if you live around here, the unexplained is not only real, but it's active, silent, and potentially very dangerous. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode of The Weekly Strange. As always, if you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my new uploads. And if you really like the content I'm creating, please consider joining the channel as a member, and you get access to some pretty cool perks. Until then, I will see you next week for brand new episodes of The Weekly Strange. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Good night.